Welcome to How to Grow a Garden. I'm Scarlett. Today we're going to talk about tomatoes, starting from seed to seedling, pricking out, potting up, and eventually into the garden. So follow along and let's plant some tomatoes. There's multiple different ways of doing this. I'm just going to fill these with some universal potting soil, nothing complicated. I'm going to fill them up like so. Now, a lot of people like to do this and then water afterwards. I find that if you water after your tomato seeds, or any of your seedlings for that matter, are already in there, the water will dislodge your seeds and you could have a problem. You could start floating all over the place. And since I actually want the seeds right in the middle, I'm just gonna fill them up and firm them down just a little bit. You want to firm them down and make sure there's no air bubbles in there. You don't want to squash them. The roots should still be able to move. So just firm it down lightly. You know, give it a little push, and that's going to be that for that part. Now, I need to find my water. So I like to spray them first, get them nice and wet. At this point, you could just use anything, just get them wet. Let it sit for 2 seconds, let it draw in. Take my tiny little seeds and just push them right into the center of each one. Now, these seeds are brand new, and I know they're going to work. And if they don't work, it's okay, because I'm going to sow again in 2 weeks. So I don't want too many. The last thing I want to do is throwing out seedlings. I can't stand that. So I've got 3. I just push them in lightly, pinch them over the top a little bit, very lightly. When planting seeds, you want to remember that you should only bury them 2 to 3 times the size of the seeds. So obviously the tomato seeds are so tiny, you don't need to go very far. Just teeny bit. Now you could lightly water, and I know they're not going to move because it's already soaked, so I don't have to like pour tons of water in. So that is how you grow tomato seeds. Now once the tomatoes start growing, they'll start looking a little more like this. You want to take a container. Again, I have a biodegradable container, and I'm going to put a little bit of soil in it. I'm going to compact it a little bit, just give it a little push. Now, you want a good hole in the center, and then we're going to start pricking out. Now, let's start with the largest plant. And by largest, I don't necessarily mean tallest. I mean the plant with the thickest stem, the one that is the greenest, the one that looks healthy. The problem with growing them too long in a small container is you'll actually stunt their growth. So these could be much bigger if I had put them into larger containers quicker. But that's all right, because they'll catch up. But what you want to do is just go underneath, move it around a little bit, shake it, give it a good shake. Shakety, shake, shake, shake. They'll all come dislodged, but that's all right. Now, people like to say you want to hold your tomato or any of your plants from the leaves. This is correct. You want to hold them from the leaves, but I find that that's very difficult. So, you know, avoid touching the stem as much as possible. Yes, that makes sense. I like to hold them kind of like this. Okay, so that the tomato is kind of resting between my fingers. The seeds are on the leaves are on top, the roots on the bottom. Nothing's getting squished in the process, and that way I can make sure it's standing up straight without putting strain anywhere on the plant. Okay, so I have this hole. Oops. So I have my hole here, and I'm just gonna ever so gently kind of squish the roots into it. That's always the tricky part. And once I get down to this part, I'm going to push the tomato as far as I can go without damaging anything. I just want to squish it in there. Okay? Now that is option 1. Now the second way of doing it, and I actually prefer to do it like this when I'm dealing with tomatoes, is to prick out my tomato, same as before, just gently get it out of the pot. This is an empty container. I'm going to put the tomato all the way down in the bottom. Now I don't want to fill past the bottom leaves. The first leaves. You can prick them off, and then you can actually bury it deeper. But now I have a plant that is going to be stronger. This one will grow just fine, but this one will grow much better. And that's because its stem is entirely under the soil. So when you're planting tomatoes or other deadly nightshade plants, you can plant them as deep as you want. You can, well, not as deep as you want, but you can continuously plant them deeper. You can move them in the ground, you can dig them up and put them lower. Remember that every time you transplant something, it's going to take a few days to recover. But you do want to grow them in little pots, and then move them into bigger pots, and then move them in bigger pots. And one of the really good reasons why you want to do that is because it's very hard to overwater if you've got a plant in such a small pot. I mean, It's even harder when you're using a mister. But in general, it's pretty hard to overwater. It's not like you're gonna put a little guy in a huge pot and the whole thing is just gonna flood over like crazy. You're only gonna use, you know, a few tablespoons and he's gonna be really wet, and that's all he wants, that's all he needs. Okay, so that is how you prick out the tomatoes that are grown in on a tray. If they're grown in individual containers, they're not going to have that problem. You're just going to plop that container into a larger container, probably not into this one, but something a little larger, like a 2-inch pot. Now, once they get bigger, this guy later will go into a pot like this. You'll see its difference. This is a 1-inch versus a 2-inch or 2.5 inch. I'm not actually sure what these are. I have to measure them. So here, you see all that? They've got crazy roots coming out of there. So that tells me that this guy is ready to go into something bigger. So those are the different methods, the different ways, starting from seed or pricking them out and then going up and up and up as you want. Please check out my tomato playlist for more information. I will be potting these up shortly. We're not quite the last frost date yet. I do have some in the garden under cold frames, but for now I'm going to keep a few of these in the house. So I will put that into another episode, how to plant them out into the garden, and that will be in the tomato playlist, so do check that out. I think I've already said that, sorry. Yeah, give me a thumbs up if you've gotten this far, so I know that you guys liked the video and you actually watched it to the end, which is so cool. I just love you guys, and let me know what you think, and you know, tell me if you're growing tomatoes, because who isn't? They're just so awesome. So I will see you in the next episode, and I wish you happy gardening. Toodaloo.